Welcome back, everybody, here to the Score Sports Closet here on this Friday edition of Off the Wall. It is Joey Keeran here hanging out with you. Quick Amber Alert there breaking in, I guess. Good timing, though. Wraps up, and we get right back into things here with you as we are talking some college football here on the program on this Friday. We've been checking in with fall camp throughout and want to get a chance to go up to Corvallis, where the Oregon State Beavers will be gearing up for their second scrimmage of the fall. That'll be going on this weekend there at Research Stadium. And to talk more about Oregon State football with us from BeaverBlitz.com, it is Angie Machado joining us here on the program. Angie, thanks so much for the time here today. How are things going up there in Corvallis? I hope that fall camp has been treating you pretty well.
It has been awesome. In fact, we're right in the middle of practice right now. So if you hear any whistles or anything, then you know it's live. But all's good, and it's just good to be back and watching football live.
Absolutely, right? The fact that you guys get a chance to go up there and be watching actually practice. I know the counterpart down in Eugene not necessarily getting as much access as they give up in Corvallis, but also with the pandemic not getting a chance to be around the teams as often. It's a whole different element to finally be back out there and getting a chance to watch all of this live. And it has to feel pretty good for you folks to get a chance to be out there on a daily basis watching fall camp going along.
Absolutely. It gives us a chance to see the players and see really who's standing out and be around people again. It's actually fun.
Yes, it's bringing back the enjoyment of college football for us here. As we talk Beavers fall camp here, we've got the second scrimmage of fall camp coming up here this weekend. I've been watching some of the press conferences that have been held with players and coaches after practices this week. How big of an importance are they talking about this second scrimmage up there? It always seems like this is the crucial moment of fall camp when guys are really trying to earn their spot on the depth chart. Does it feel like there's kind of maybe a sense of urgency going into this weekend for a lot of these players?
Definitely. That first scrimmage last weekend, it was pretty vanilla. The defense completely dominated. It was a lot of run game, but this week we will see more, more install of the offense, and it's getting to crunch time because there's another week left of camp before the Beavs actually start really honing in and focusing on Purdue. So, the guys are really trying to fight for those spots, and we will see less of those younger guys go, I believe, tomorrow as they let first, second, third team kind of take over.
So, obviously, going into any scrimmage and in the final week of the fall camp, position battles are always going to be the big one. And I guess we could start with the biggest, and that's the quarterback battle. And it feels as if Jonathan Smith is really keeping a tight lips on what he thinks about that. What have been your impressions of the quarterback battle so far through the first scrimmage and through the camps that you've been able to watch? And what do you kind of expect to maybe see out of the quarterbacks battling for that top spot going into this scrimmage?
Yeah, it's really been Tristan Gebbia and Sam Neuer. So Tristan, was a starter last season before the injury that he sustained at the end of that Oregon game. And he looks good. He's running strong. He's, back to kind of what we expect or what we saw from him last season. But then, the transfer of Sam Neuer has kind of added to that wrinkle. So I really do think it's down to those two. There is young guy, Sam Vidlak, who actually, when you look at spring camp, it was him and Ben Gulbranson who had the strongest arms on the team. And Sam has taken some reps with the first team, but I think when all said and done, it's really a Sam Neuer, Tristan Gebbia. And honestly, I wouldn't want to make that call right now because one day Sam looks like he stands out, and the next day it's Tristan that looks like he might have the edge up. So, both are getting, taking turns with the first team. So there should be comfort regardless, whoever wins it. But that is a tight battle right now.
Yeah, absolutely. When you first heard the news that Sam Neuer was going to be transferring out of Colorado to Oregon State, what was your kind of initial impression of him coming and what that did for that quarterback room for the Beavers?
Honestly, my first reaction was, is he being recruited as a quarterback or a DB? Because we know he played both at Colorado, and Oregon State had the stable of the two young guys with Vidlak and Gulbranson, and then you had Chance Nolan and then Tristan Gebbia. So at first, my first gut was maybe Tristan they weren't thinking he would be healthy. Mm-hmm. But anytime you can add a guy who's a one and done, he has 1 year of eligibility left, who knows the Beavers offense in a lot of ways, just because he did play 2 seasons with Brian Lindgren at Colorado. So he knows a lot of the terminology. He knows a lot of the playbook already. it never hurts competition, and just having that guy in the room that, knows the Pac-12. So I think Coach Smith knows that this is a year he has to win. This is year 4. There's no more, building or my guys or needing to build certain areas. He needs to win. So having that experience in the Pac-12 it's a huge boost to the Beavers.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously seeing Jebbia go down last year with the injury, it's always great to have a solid backup at that position. I've been hearing a lot of talk about the offensive line that seems to be coming together with a pretty deep group for the Beavers. On the offensive side of the ball, you do have to replace, obviously, at the running back position. They've got a number of wide receivers back. What do you feel about around the quarterback position, where the Beavers stand going into this final week of fall camp with the guys that they have? What are some of the strengths for them going into that?
Obviously the strength is the offensive line. If those guys can stay healthy, they return all 5 starters from last season. So that is a very solid, very veteran group. So I love where the O-line is. Tight end is another area I think is really going to support whoever the quarterback is. And like you said, tons and tons of talent coming back on the wide receivers. No real new names. I'm looking through the list. Micaiah Tongue is a transfer from Georgia. Has been running with the 1s and the 2s. So I do expect to see him playing. But most of the names on that list have seen time, and Beaver fans and Duck fans and the Pac-12, they're not going to be surprises. Running back's going to be interesting because, yes, there's B.J. Baylor, who played a backup role to Jamar Jefferson last season. But the Bees also went out in the transfer portal, which has been a huge area for Oregon State's focus in recruiting, and have a transfer into Sean Fenwick from South Carolina, who has actually been showing some flashes, during fall camp. So I really do see this as a Deshaun Fenwick, B.J. Baylor. Trey Lowe is another name to kind of watch. He's kind of battled some injury, another transfer from Washington, but a former 4-star from a Portland Jesuit. So there's some talent there on offense.
Talking with Angie Machado from BeaverBlitz.com. You can check out their work there. They do a great job of being out at camp all the time and following this. And you guys do get into a lot of the recruiting stuff there with 247 Sports. And you mentioned a lot of names of transfers coming into this program. I mean, a lot has been made about Jonathan Smith's use of the transfer portal to bring these guys in. Looking at that, and I know that he's been asked about it a lot, obviously, there's different ways to build a program, and maybe bringing in guys that are more experienced help maybe build up your roster a little bit faster than bringing in high school guys that need to learn the expertise to play at this level. What do you make of the use of the transfer portal there in Corvallis, and is it going to be a kind of a path that they continue to use, or is it continuing to be something that they try to plug and play, and maybe they kind of start transitioning out of that in the next couple of years?
No, I think the transfer portal is going to be a really strong area for Oregon State. Oregon State is not a program that has historically recruited preps super strong. I mean, they're not in the running for big 4 and 5 stars all that often. So for them, they've always relied on the development role and recruiting guys that maybe, by their junior, senior year are big-time contributors. So what the transfer portal has done, though, is there's a real lack of patience we're seeing. And so guys that maybe aren't playing are looking to make a move. So it's helped Oregon State so much in just getting some of these guys that maybe were a 4 or 5 star recruit out of high school, went to a Penn State or a South Carolina or a Georgia and just aren't breaking through the depth chart, able to transfer into Oregon State and make an immediate impact at Oregon State.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, you mentioned some big time schools, South Carolina in there, that Georgia and whatnot, that these guys are coming from, and so obviously you hear those names and you think the talent that they have on those rosters, and it's nice to add those additions to Oregon State and what they're doing there. Defensively for the Beavers, the loss of Isaac Hodgins is a big one that I know that hurts for a lot of Beaver fans there along that front line. What does that loss mean, and how do you think they try to replace the loss of his production up on that front line?
Yeah, I mean, he's such a veteran, such a leader, and hopefully his foot heals and he is back, in early to mid-October. But, the defense, and that was honestly, in my opinion, the biggest question mark on this whole team this year is that defensive front. And they did get a defensive tackle out of Minnesota, but again, then Keontae Shad, he's been injured as well. So a couple big time, hits for Oregon State right out of the gate. I think the entire thing depends on that up front. This entire season, the bowl eligibility, all of that depends on what kind of push that defensive line can get. We're seeing a big time, and it's not going to be new to Beaver fans. It's a lot of, of replacements and a lot of, we're seeing Jeremy Reichner, Tavis Shippen, Alexander Skelton, names that are familiar, but we're going to see a heavy rotation this year. And one player I'm actually kind of excited to see is Thomas Seo, offensive lineman out of Alaska, who just made the switch to D-line this offseason. So he is, from all accounts that I've heard, he is the strongest guy on the team as far as lifting and just learning that technique on the other side of the ball. But he could really be a big anchor for the Beavers this year.
I know just the other day they had some of the defensive guys available after practice, and I was hearing that about some takeaways, big focus there. And I know Beaver fans want to hear the chainsaw going for takeaways there throughout the season at Reser Stadium. The secondary, the linebackers, how's the rest of the defense looking for this Beaver squad? And are there areas of concern back there for Oregon State?
Yeah, I think, like I said, it starts up front. And I think a lot of the secondary struggles the past couple of years has just been the lack of that, the pass rush up front. So I do like the experience coming back in the secondary. And what we've seen, seriously, the past week or so, we've really seen an emergence of Jaden Robinson, who was kind of buried on the depth chart. But, in that scrimmage last week, he had 2 interceptions. One was a 100-yard pick six. So, we've seen a lot. I mean, daily, he is one of the top cornerbacks in the practice report. So definitely some, new guys stepping up. Then you have, the Jaden Grants, Achille Arnold, some names that are familiar. But I think the strength of this entire offense still hinges in that linebacker room. Inside linebackers anchored by Pac-12, all Pac-12 selections, Avery Roberts and Omar Spates. I mean, both those guys are just such leaders. But then, the backups aren't bad either. When Jack Coletto can come in and Kyrie Fisher, there's some names there. And outside linebackers, more familiar names, Andre Hughes-Murray, Riley Sharp, newcomer Samisi Saluni. He's a signee from a couple of years ago, went on his LDS mission in his back, and just a real long, lean athlete. John McCartan, who's been sitting out with a minor ding. Hopefully he gets back. But several guys there that, have experience and Beaver fans should, be excited to see.
You mentioned that you were getting into year 4 for Oregon head coach Jonathan Smith. He's had some consistency with his coaches. He's had his chance to bring in his guys with the players and whatnot. And you kind of mentioned that this could be are getting into must-win type of territory for them. Is the seat getting hot? I always felt like Jonathan Smith was a fantastic hire for that program. He knows it, obviously, as a former player, knows what it's like to play in that area, and he knows what it's like to kind of recruit around the Pacific Northwest. But at the same time, they want to see wins, and the Beaver fans want to be back in bowl games. Is the seat warming for Jonathan Smith, and how much pressure is on him going into this season, do you think?
I don't think Jonathan Smith's feet is heating up. I think he has a pretty long leash, and he has admitted. I asked him at media day this year if he felt finally confident that this was a roster of his guys and the depth he liked, and he said it is. It's that he has depth this year. He has his type of players. Now, would I say the same about a couple coaches on the staff? Maybe not. Maybe not. I really think defensively, and Jonathan Smith would probably disagree adamantly with me, but I just think that defense has been so bad statistically over the past several years that they need to make a big jump, especially, like I said, D-line and defensive coordinator. I think fans are starting to, the patience is wearing thin on those two guys. But other than that, I mean, Coach Smith does know the program. He has built, now he has his guys, his system. And I think no one puts more pressure on winning on him than him. I mean, he is such a competitor, and I think Coach Smith feels that this is a year too.
Well, we'll definitely see how things play out. Going to be a big weekend coming up with that second scrimmage. Is there I guess the question I'll have as you get ready for that scrimmage, what's the big thing that you're looking to watch and kind of pay attention most to going into this scrimmage?
Well, quarterback, is a big one. Just, that field general who maybe takes the most snaps with the first team, who maybe takes that next step to solidify that decision of who will be the starter. But I also want to see if the defense can keep up with what they did last week, because, like I said, last week the defense completely dominated in all aspects during the scrimmage. So I want to see if that was an anomaly or if that is something that Beaver fans really can hang their hat on. And it's not rare for a defense to lead in that first scrimmage just because it is more running. It's more of a vanilla offense. But is it something that they can carry over into the second scrimmage and truly dominate like they did last week? And if that's the case, I think maybe the turnaround could really be true with that defensive front.
Talking with Angie Machado here from BeaverBlitz.com, and you'll be able to check out their website for full recaps of what's going on with this weekend's second scrimmage for Oregon State. Any deals you got? I know you guys have your subscription service that you guys put on with that gets access to a ton of great information on the website. Any deals you got going right now, or any ways that folks can find out your guys' coverage and become a part of Beaver Blitz there?
Absolutely. Just head over to beaverblitz.com. And I believe we're running a first month for $1 special right now. So that is the promo. And, the best part about being with Beaver Blitz, not only is the lodge and all of the insider information, the practice report, that's where all of our inside practice reports are. But you also have access to the entire 24/7 network. So you're able to read message boards for your rival sites, and then also recruiting. Nobody is better in the business than Brandon Huffman, Greg Biggins, Blair Angulo, and all those guys that help us on the recruiting front.
Cool. Angie, thanks so much for all the insight from up there in Corvallis at Oregon State football practice. We'll look forward to seeing what the Beavers have in store for us, and looking forward to a great year. Hopefully we'll get a chance to get you back on again here soon.
Thanks so much for having me on, Joey. Have a great Friday.
Hey, you too. That is Angie Machado from BeaverBlitz.com. Check out her work there. We'll go ahead and take the break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this first hour of the program. Again, we'll be talking some high school football in hour number 2 as we get head coach Dave Heiberger from the Roseburg football team joining us here on the program in about 40 minutes from now as we will talk with him. When we come back here, I played a clip from George Kliavkoff at the start of the program talking about this Pac-12, Big Ten, ACC alliance that could be coming up, that could be announced here soon. But there was something else that he said, not only on James Crepia's show, that's where we got that clip from, but also he said it multiple times, and it is something that has kind of stuck with me that doesn't quite add up when it comes to the game plan going forward for the Pac-12 conference. We'll dive into that when we come back to finish out hour number 1 here on the program. It is Joey Keeran with you. Off the Wall, presented by BTB Moving. They offer labor services for your moving needs right here in Douglas County and around the state of Oregon. You can also, they know that they are veteran-owned, affordable, dependable, efficient, and they are careful with all of your stuff. It's your precious stuff that you're moving from point A to point B. They will make sure that it gets there safely. They've got senior and veteran discounts available, so book now at 541-315-0122. Find them on Facebook at BTB Moving. We'll be back with more Off the Wall on a Friday here on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM.